A keep out sign is often a magnet for the wrong kind of person. We are hardwired to look behind the curtain, even when the curtain is made of 10 tons of moving steel. Today we examine 6 individuals who discovered that some secrets are meant to stay buried. This is a documentary look at the fatal cost of one more step. Never cross the line. Some doors are closed for a reason. March 2nd, 2012, the port of Mobile, Alabama. The air is thick with the smell of diesel and salt, a heavy, humid blanket that clings to the steel skin of the Zim Mexico 3. This is a massive container ship, a floating city weighing over 50,000 tons, currently in the process of a routine shifting operation along the concrete pier. The environment is industrial and loud, a symphony of grinding gears and shouting voices, but amidst the chaos, there is a specific invisible geometry that dictates life and death. The ship is being held against the dock by heavy mooring lines, thick cables made of high modulus synthetic fiber. These are not the rusty steel chains of the past. They are modern polymers, lighter than water but stronger than steel. However, they possess a fatal flaw that is invisible to the naked eye. Unlike steel, which groans and creaks before it breaks, synthetic rope is silent until the very last second. It acts exactly like a giant rubber band, storing kinetic energy with every inch it stretches. On this particular afternoon, the operation seems normal. The massive hydraulic winches on the ship's deck are tightening, pulling the vessel against the current. Down on the pier, a dock worker notices something peculiar. One of the mooring lines is vibrating. It is making a low, humming sound, a phenomenon known in the maritime industry as singing. This sound occurs when the tension is so high that the air around the rope begins to resonate. To a seasoned sailor, this sound is a scream of warning, a signal to run. But curiosity is a powerful and deceptive instinct. The worker does not run. Instead, he pauses. He wants to identify the source of the vibration. He wants to see which specific line is under stress, perhaps to signal the ship's crew to slacken it. He steps closer to the edge of the dock, his eyes fixed on the trembling blue rope. He enters the area marked on safety diagrams as the snap-back zone. This is a calculated arc of death, the precise area where a broken line will recoil if it fails. But the line looks static. It looks harmless. It is just a piece of plastic, motionless in the humid air. The worker is now standing less than 20 feet from the bollard, leaning in slightly, his attention captured by the physics of the strain. He is trying to visually gauge the tension, unaware that the ship has drifted slightly offshore, adding thousands of tons of load to this single point of contact. The rope is now stretching, its molecular bonds screaming in silence, the fibers heating up from internal friction. The energy stored in that 60-foot length of rope is now equivalent to a stick of dynamite. The worker is not looking at a rope. He is looking at a loaded cannon, and he is standing directly in the barrel. He takes one more step to get a better angle. In his mind, he is just doing his job, investigating a mechanical anomaly. In reality, he has just crossed the event horizon. The failure happens in a microsecond. There is no slow tearing, no warning fray. The rope simply reaches its yield point and snaps. The release of energy is instantaneous. This is not a fall. This is a detonation. The severed end of the rope does not drop to the ground. It whips back toward the pier at a velocity exceeding 700 kilometers per hour. It breaks the sound barrier, creating a sonic boom that sounds like a gunshot. The human brain processes visual information at roughly 13 milliseconds, but the rope is moving faster than the speed of thought. The man never sees it coming. He is still looking at the bollard when the synthetic lash strikes him. The impact is not like being hit by a solid object. It is like being hit by a shockwave of solid matter. The rope strikes his upper body with enough kinetic force to cause an immediate and catastrophic structural failure. It is a blunt force trauma so catastrophic that the medical examiners would later describe it as non-survivable from the moment of contact. The man is thrown backward, his body limp before he even hits the concrete. The singing stops. The dock falls silent, save for the hum of the ship's generators. In the aftermath, his hard hat is found rolling on the pavement, the only sign of the violence that just occurred. The rope lies coiled on the ground, looking like a harmless pile of blue string. It seems impossible that something so soft could deliver a blow harder than a speeding car. But that is the lesson of the Zim Mexico 3. The worker paid the ultimate price for his curiosity, for the simple desire to understand why the rope was vibrating. He forgot that in the world of heavy industry, physics does not negotiate. The energy has to go somewhere. And on that day, it went through him. It serves as a brutal reminder that you should never trust a machine, and you should never ever investigate a strange noise when the forces involved are measured in thousands of tons. Curiosity didn't just kill, it ended things instantly. July 11, 1990, Lake Worth Drainage District, Florida. The surface of the water is deceptively calm, a flat, shimmering mirror under the humid summer sun, hiding the immense mechanical forces at work just a few feet beneath the waterline. William Moore, a seasoned professional diver with years of experience in commercial underwater maintenance, is preparing for what he believes to be a standard, low-risk operation. The job is routine: inspect the concrete infrastructure of a local dam and ensure the flow regulators are functioning correctly. The water is murky, filled with the green silt and algae typical of inland canals, reducing visibility to a mere arm's length. Moore descends into this silent, weightless world, breathing the dry, compressed air from his regulator, feeling the familiar comfort of his buoyancy compensator. He is in his element, a master of this submerged environment. But today, the environment has a hidden weapon, a phenomenon so powerful and sudden that it has no mercy for skill or experience. Moore approaches a large concrete wall, part of the dam's intake system. Embedded in this wall is a pipe, a simple steel conduit with a diameter of roughly 8 inches, about 20 centimeters. To the human eye, an 8-inch hole looks insignificant. It looks harmless. It is barely wide enough to fit a dinner plate, let alone a human body. Moore observes the pipe. It is currently active, funneling water from the high-pressure side of the canal to the lower-pressure discharge side. The flow is driven by gravity and the colossal weight of the lake above. In the murky water, the flow is invisible. There is no swirling vortex, no loud noise, just a silent movement of liquid mass. This is where curiosity overrides the survival instinct. Moore, perhaps wanting to verify the suction strength or check for debris blocking the grate, decides to investigate the flow physically. He reaches out his gloved hand. He likely expects to feel a gentle tug, a current he can easily swim against or pull away from. He is wrong. He has just introduced himself to the most feared and lethal concept in physics: delta P, or differential pressure. To understand why this is fatal, you have to understand the math of the trap. Water is heavy. It weighs about 62 pounds per cubic foot. When you have a wall of water on one side pushing to get through a small hole to a side with less water, it creates a pressure differential. The moment Moore's hand gets close to the intake, he effectively becomes a plug. The water behind him, thousands of gallons of it, is no longer just surrounding him. It is pushing him. He seals the hole. Instantly, the pressure inside the pipe drops, while the pressure of the lake pushing against his back remains constant and crushing. The result is not a suction in the way a vacuum cleaner works. It is a violent, unyielding shove from the entire weight of the canal. The force is instantaneous. There is no time to think, no time to regret the decision. In less than a second, his arm is rammed into the pipe up to the shoulder. He tries to pull back, but the physics are absolute. The force holding him there is calculated by multiplying the pressure per square inch by the area of the opening. On an 8-inch pipe, even a moderate pressure difference creates hundreds of pounds of force. It is the mathematical equivalent of having a small car parked on his arm. He is anchored to the dam. But the horror of delta P is that it is relentless. It does not get tired. As Moore struggles, the seal tightens. The water, desperate to equalize, pulls him closer, dragging his chest and head against the rough concrete face. The curiosity that led him to touch the intake has now trapped him in a grip that no human strength can break. He is pinned against the wall, suspended in the green gloom, likely screaming into his regulator, but the sound is swallowed by the water. The immense hydrostatic load begins to compress his torso. This is the true mechanism of the fatality. It is not just drowning, it is mechanical compression. The pressure against his back is so great that his chest cavity can't expand to take a breath. The lungs are squeezed shut by the weight of the lake. He is conscious, he is aware, and he is immobilized by a hole that is too small to pass through but too strong to let go. There is no escape. The dive team on the surface eventually realizes something is wrong when Moore fails to respond to line tugs or check-ins. But rescue in a Delta P situation is a logistical nightmare. You cannot simply pull the diver off. The force required would cause catastrophic physical trauma, effectively separating the limb from the body. To free him, the engineers have to shut down the entire flow system, closing the heavy gates and equalizing the water levels on both sides of the dam to kill the pressure. It takes time that Moore does not have. By the time the pressure is neutralized and his body drifts free from the concrete wall, the physics of the event have already reached their conclusion. William Moore's death was not an accident of chance. It was a direct consequence of underestimating the invisible energy of moving water. His tragedy remains a standard case study in commercial diving schools worldwide, a grim lesson known as the Rule of 3 feet. It teaches new divers that you never ever trust a hole in the water, no matter how small it looks. The pipe didn't malfunction, the dam didn't break, the system worked exactly as designed. The only error was a human hand reaching out to answer a simple question. How strong is the pull? The answer was absolute, and the price of the answer was everything. June 28, 2008, Six Flags Over, Georgia, Austell. The air is thick with the suffocating humidity of the American South, a blanket of heat that amplifies the chaotic energy of the amusement park. Amidst the screams of thrill seekers and the smell of fried food, a massive structure dominates the skyline. Batman, the ride. This is not a playground toy. It is a masterpiece of Swiss engineering, a suspended steel roller coaster designed by the legendary firm Bolliger and Mabillard. It is an inverted coaster, meaning the train hangs beneath the track, leaving the rider's legs dangling freely in the open air to simulate the sensation of flight without a cockpit. The machine is a precise assembly of potential and kinetic energy, capable of subjecting the human body to 4 Gs of force. But on this specific Saturday afternoon, the danger is not for the riders strapped into the safety harnesses. The danger is waiting in the tall grass below. Asia Leshon Ferguson, a 17-year-old visitor, has just lost a personal item, a hat, during a previous ride cycle. To the average observer, a lost hat is a trivial annoyance, a small price to pay for a day of adrenaline. But for Ferguson, the loss of his hat becomes a secondary thought. His primary focus shifts to the machine itself. He is driven by a fatal curiosity to see the massive mechanism up close, to feel the rush of wind as the 4-ton train screams past just inches away. He wants to witness the power from a perspective no one else has. He does not realize that he is about to enter a zone where the rules of human biology are secondary to the laws of momentum. He approaches the perimeter of the ride, a restricted area explicitly designed to keep soft biological bodies away from hard steel projectiles. He encounters the first barrier, a 6-foot chain-link fence adorned with bright, aggressive signage warning of extreme danger and restricted access. To him, the fence is just an obstacle, a physical puzzle to be solved. He climbs it. This is the first critical error in the chain of causality. But the park engineers have built a redundant system. There is a second fence, another 6-foot barrier further in, creating a no-man's land of safety. Ferguson scales this one as well. He is now trespassing in the operational theater of the machine, walking through the weeds and concrete footers in a ravine that sits directly beneath the ride's lowest and fastest maneuvers. The environment here is deceptive. It feels quiet compared to the midway, a hidden backstage area where the grass is overgrown. Ferguson begins scanning the ground, looking for his hat, completely unaware that he is standing inside the dynamic envelope, the calculated invisible tunnel that the train occupies when it screams through the track. Above him, the coaster train, a 4-ton assembly of steel, fiberglass, and 28 passengers, crests the lift hill and begins its gravity-driven descent. It accelerates to 80 kilometers per hour, a speed that transforms the vehicle into a crushing force. As the train enters the lower section of the track, it is designed to sweep close to the ground to enhance the thrill, a maneuver known as a near miss. For the riders, it is an illusion of danger. For Ferguson, it is a mathematical certainty of collision. He likely does not hear the specific roar of the approaching train until it is too late. The ambient noise of the park, the screams from other rides, and the wind masks the directional sound of the threat. The physics of the tragedy are instantaneous and brutal. Unlike a car accident where a bumper hits a pedestrian, this is an inverted coaster. The leading edge of the impact is the suspended legs of the passengers in the front row. The train, moving at highway speeds, occupies the exact same coordinates in space-time as the teenager. There is no time for a reflex action. There is no time to duck. The kinetic energy transfer is catastrophic. The impact acts as a catastrophic shear point. The collision between the solid mass of the train and the stationary body of the teenager results in trauma that is clinically described as non-survivable. The force is so immense that it does not just injure, it compromises the structural integrity of the body instantly. Ferguson is thrown with violent velocity, his life extinguished before his brain can even process the visual input of the approaching machine. The riders on the train feel a sickening, heavy thump, a disruption in the smooth glide of the steel wheels, unaware that their limbs have just become the instrument of a fatality. The train completes its circuit, returning to the station with the grim evidence of the collision, while below in the ravine, the silence returns to the restricted zone. Emergency services arrive within minutes, but the mechanics of the event have left no room for medical intervention. The investigation would later confirm that every safety system on the ride functioned perfectly. The sensors, the brakes, and the restraints were flawless. The fences were secure. The signs were legible. The failure was entirely human, a decision to trade safety for a closer look. Asia Ferguson's death serves as a horrific, permanent reminder of why exclusion zones exist. They are not arbitrary lines drawn by lawyers. They are the physical boundaries between the forgiving world of human error and the unforgiving world of industrial physics. He climbed 2 fences to find a hat, but instead, he found the absolute limit of what happens when a human being steps into the path of a machine that cannot stop, cannot see, and cannot feel. October 27, 2001, Chicago, Illinois. The Michigan Avenue Bridge is one of the most iconic structures in the city, a double-leaf bascule bridge that spans the Chicago River, connecting the busy commercial districts. To the thousands of tourists and locals who cross it every day, it feels like a solid, immovable street. But this is a dangerous illusion. The bridge is actually a massive machine, a complex assembly of steel, concrete, and electric motors designed to lift 2 6,000-ton leaves into the air to allow boat traffic to pass. The engineering behind it is precise and powerful, relying on a system of counterweights that descend into a deep pit as the roadway rises. It is a mechanical seesaw on a gigantic scale. On this Saturday night, the city is alive with activity. Catherine Katie Lubesnik, a 24-year-old woman, is walking across the bridge with friends. She is not a reckless daredevil. She is simply a curious observer, fascinated by the urban environment. As they cross, the warning bells begin to ring, a rhythmic, metallic alarm signaling that the bridge is about to open. The traffic gates descend, stopping cars and pedestrians. Most people step back, waiting for the spectacle to unfold. But Catherine is drawn to the mechanism itself. She wants to see how the massive steel leaves detach from the earth and rise. In a moment of fatal curiosity, she steps away from the crowd and moves toward the railing near the southeast bridge house. She peers into the gap where the moving leaf meets the fixed abutment, a small triangular space between the pedestrian railing and the concrete wall of the tender's house. To her, it looks like a safe vantage point, a balcony from which to watch the engineering marvel. She does not understand the geometry of a bascule bridge. As the electric motors engage and the massive pinion gears begin to turn, the bridge leaf does not just go up, it pivots. The tail of the bridge, the part she is standing next to, swings downward and inward. The space she is occupying is not a balcony. It is a shear point. It is a closing scissor. As the roadway begins to rise toward the vertical position, The railing she is leaning against moves with it, sweeping inwards toward the fixed concrete wall of the operator's house. The gap, previously wide enough for a person to stand comfortably, begins to shrink with terrifying speed. The physics at play here are governed by the law of the lever. The bridge is balanced so perfectly that the motors only need to overcome friction and wind resistance, but the mass behind the movement is astronomical. The counterweight alone weighs thousands of tons. Catherine realizes the danger too late. The geometry of the steel trap closes around her. She is caught between the moving steel railing of the bridge leaf and the immovable concrete wall of the pit. This is not a pinch. This is a compression of absolute finality. The bridge tender, located in a tower with limited visibility of that specific corner, has no idea she is there. He is watching the river traffic, ensuring the channel is clear for the passing boat. The machine continues its cycle. The gap closes to zero. The force exerted on her body is not measured in pounds per square inch. It is measured in structural tonnage. The bridge does not feel the resistance of a human body any more than a hydraulic press feels a grape. It simply completes its arc. The compression is instantaneous and overwhelming, causing a structural failure of the skeletal system that is mechanically irreversible. The tragedy creates a gruesome paradox. The bridge is functioning perfectly, lifting its leaves to the majestic height of 74 degrees, while simultaneously executing a fatal crushing maneuver at its base. The screams, if there were any, are drowned out by the grinding of the gears and the roar of the engines. When the bridge finally halts, the silence that follows is heavy. Emergency responders arrive to find a scene that defies medical intervention. The interaction between the steel frame and the concrete wall has left no space for survival. Catherine Lubeznik's death was a collision between the fragile curiosity of a human being and the unyielding reality of heavy infrastructure. She looked into the machine to see how it worked, and the machine demonstrated its power by closing the distance between 2 points, regardless of what stood in between. It serves as a stark, permanent reminder that in the urban jungle, the ground beneath your feet is often a moving part, and the safe zones are calculated by engineers who assume you will never step past the line. 2011, California. The interior of a modern industrial laundry facility is a hostile, deafening cathedral of steam, chemistry, and relentless steel motion. It is a world designed solely for high-capacity efficiency, where the air is thick with the stinging scent of commercial alkali and the humidity hovers near 100%. In this environment, the machines are not appliances. They are leviathans. The facility operates on a continuous batch system, a fully automated loop where thousands of pounds of hotel linens and hospital scrubs are washed, pressed, and dried by a networked grid of robotic shuttles and massive tumblers. On this specific shift, a worker finds himself standing before dryer number 4, a colossal steel cylinder capable of processing 300 pounds of wet fabric in a single cycle. The machine is currently in a standby state, its vast stainless steel mouth open, dark, and silent. The worker is driven by a fatal curiosity regarding a mechanical anomaly, perhaps a damaged lifting rib inside the drum, or a sensor that had been acting up during the previous cycle. Instead of following the strict lockout-tagout protocol, which requires cutting the main power, he relies on the machine's temporary silence. He decides to investigate the internal mechanism personally. He climbs through the loading port, a circular steel ring designed for linen, not for biology. He steps onto the perforated metal floor of the drum, surrounded by the residual heat of the previous load and the smell of hot iron. He is now standing inside a device that is, mechanically speaking, a horizontal centrifuge waiting for a trigger. The danger here is invisible. It is the automation logic. These machines are controlled by a central computer system that uses weight sensors and shuttle cues to determine when to start. The machine does not have eyes. It does not know that the 300 pounds of weight currently resting on the drum sensors is a human being. It simply registers load present. The worker is inspecting the inner wall when the system logic executes its command. The loading door, powered by heavy pneumatic pistons, swings shut. The lock engages with a final metallic clack that seals the vessel hermetically. The worker is now trapped in a soundproof steel chamber. He likely shouts, banging on the thick tempered glass. But the ambient roar of the facility, a constant 90 decibels of background noise, swallows his voice completely. Then the cycle begins. It does not start at full speed. It begins with a tumble phase. The drum rotates slowly, lifting him up the wall and dropping him, a disorientation that prevents him from finding a stable footing or reaching the emergency release latch on the inside of the door, if one even exists. He is tossed around like a rag doll in the dark, but the tumble is just the warm-up. The computer shifts to the extraction or high-spin phase. The RPMs begin to climb. This is the moment where the physics of the situation shift from a simple entrapment to a high-energy event. The drum accelerates to speeds designed to force water out of heavy fabric through centrifugal force. As the velocity increases, the worker is no longer tumbling, he is pinned. The laws of physics dictate that an object moving in a circle creates a force directed away from the center. He is plastered against the curved steel wall by his own inertia. The G-force climbs rapidly, 2 Gs, then 4 Gs, then higher. At this level, his body weight effectively quadruples. It is the equivalent of having a defensive line of football players standing on his chest. This is where the biological failure begins. The human respiratory system works on a pressure differential. The diaphragm contracts to expand the lungs, drawing air in. But under the crushing weight of high G-force, the muscles of the chest wall are too weak to lift the rib cage against the pull. He can exhale, but he cannot inhale. He is suffering from traumatic asphyxia, drowning in air because the mechanics of breathing have been overpowered by the mechanics of rotation. Simultaneously, the blood in his body acts like a liquid in a centrifuge. It is forced into the extremities or the brain, depending on his orientation, causing catastrophic internal pressure and immediate vascular damage. The machine, indifferent to the biology inside, continues its program run. It ignites the gas burners, injecting superheated air into the drum to dry the load, raising the internal temperature to over 180 degrees Fahrenheit. The worker is trapped in a spinning, superheated nightmare, held in place by an invisible hand that refuses to let go. He loses consciousness not from the heat, but from the inability to breathe against the G-load. The machine finishes its cycle only when the timer expires. The drum slows down, the centrifugal force dissipates, and gravity finally allows the body to slump to the bottom of the cylinder. When the door is automatically released and the shuttle conveyor moves to unload the clean linen, the discovery is made. The worker's death was not a random accident. It was a direct consequence of treating a lethal industrial mechanism as a passive object. He wanted to see the inside of the machine to understand how it worked, but he failed to respect the blind, automated power it was built to wield. The dryer did exactly what it was coded to do. It spun the weight until the cycle was complete, proving that in the face of industrial automation, curiosity without isolation is a death sentence. April 4th, 2010, a historic cathedral tower in a major European city. The space is a vertical shaft of ancient stone and oak timbers, a claustrophobic chamber suspended hundreds of feet above the street. The air is cold, still, and smells of old wood, dust, and oxidized copper. Dominating this cramped room is the bourdon, the great bell. It is a colossal bronze casting weighing over 8 tons, the equivalent of a city bus. For centuries, this bell has been the voice of the city, but today it hangs silent, a sleeping giant suspended in its massive wooden frame. A historical researcher, a man with a deep academic passion for medieval engineering, has made his way up the narrow spiral staircase into the belfry. He is not a vandal or a thrill seeker. He is driven by a specific intellectual curiosity. He wants to document the unique suspension system, to photograph the centuries-old inscriptions on the bell's shoulder, and to understand how medieval craftsmen could balance such an immense weight. He has found a door left unlocked by a maintenance crew and has stepped into a zone that is technically off-limits to the public. He moves around the narrow maintenance catwalk that encircles the bell pit. The space is dangerously tight. The clearance between the bronze lip of the bell and the rough stone walls of the tower is less than a meter. The researcher is completely absorbed in his work. He is focused on the static object before him, a piece of history, an artifact frozen in time. He leans over the railing, perhaps even stepping onto the bell's support frame to get a better angle for a photograph. He is so focused on the details of the past that he loses track of the present. He forgets the time. It is exactly noon. Deep in the mechanics room below, a series of automated relays click into place. The electric motors installed decades ago to replace the human bell ringers hum to life. The researcher is standing directly inside the bell's swing path, the invisible arc of kinetic energy. The first movement is subtle. An 8-ton mass has colossal inertia. It does not start swinging violently. It begins with a slow, groaning shift as the motor overcomes its static friction. A slight rock to the left, then a slight rock to the right. The researcher likely notices this. He might even find it fascinating, a chance to see the sleeping giant awaken. He probably believes he has plenty of time to step back, to squeeze against the wall, to get to safety. This is a fatal miscalculation of momentum. The electric motor continues to drive the yoke, and with each pass, the bell's swing grows wider and faster. It is a kinetic battery, storing more and more energy with every cycle. Within seconds, the gentle rock has become a powerful, sweeping arc. The lip of the bell is now moving at over 40 kilometers per hour at the bottom of its swing, creating a rush of wind that fills the small chamber. The man realizes his critical error too late. He tries to retreat, but the catwalk is narrow, and the ancient stone walls are unforgiving. He is trapped in the crush zone, the small sliver of space between the swinging bronze and the immovable limestone. The physics of this tragedy are simple and brutal. When an 8-ton object is in motion, its momentum is effectively infinite relative to a soft biological body. The bell swings out towards the wall where the researcher is pressed. It does not stop. It does not slow down. It does not feel him. The bronze rim, hard as cast iron, closes the gap to zero. The impact is a compression event of absolute finality. The bell pins the man against the stone masonry with a force of several tons per square inch. There is no room for the rib cage to compress, no space for the organs to displace. The structural failure of the body is instantaneous. The bell then swings back, releasing the pressure, only to return seconds later on its next cycle. The horror of the situation is compounded by the sound. As the bell strikes its note, the sound pressure inside the tower exceeds 120 decibels, a deafening, bone-shaking roar. Outside, the city below hears the joyous, deep tolling of the Easter bells, a sound of celebration. Inside the tower, the mechanism continues its indifferent work, swinging back and forth with mathematical precision, completely unaffected by the object it just impacted. The electric motor simply draws a fraction more current to maintain the rhythm. The researcher wanted to see the heart of the tower, to understand the mechanics of the ancient bell. He found his answer, but he failed to respect the first rule of heavy machinery. Never stand in the path of a pendulum that weighs more than your house. The bell didn't attack him. It simply occupied the space he was standing in, proving that in the face of 8 tons of moving bronze, curiosity offers no protection against the laws of inertia. These victims paid with their lives to answer one question: what's inside? Now I'm putting it to you. Is it fair for families to receive massive insurance payouts when a relative knowingly breaks every safety rule in the book? Or is this just natural selection at its finest, where stupidity carries the ultimate price tag? Don't hold back. Tell me exactly what you think in the comments. Who is the real villain here? The person who ignored the sign, or the company that didn't build a better cage? If you value cold reality over comfort, hit like and subscribe right now.